Now, the text I'm about to share with you, you have probably heard hundreds and hundreds of times in your life, because we always roll this text out this time of year at Christmas. And on Christmas Eve, some child stands up and reads from Micah. But I want us to hear this text not as a text written in 700 BC as a country about to be attacked by the Assyrians. I want us to hear this text today as if it were alive in the year 2020. And I want you to try a thought experiment with me. Now, this may or may not work. Wouldn't be the first time we tried something that didn't work, but I want us to imagine that this is an evening talk show on CNN or Fox or MSNBC, that the interviewer is Chris Cuomo or Tucker Carlson or Hannity or Rachel Maddow. And I want us to imagine that the two people being interviewed are Dr. Fauci, the amazing epidemiologist who's been leading our country this last couple of years on this particular crisis. And the other guest is our friend Micah. So let's listen to the text, Micah 5. This is the word of the Lord, and I will be replacing the Assyrian siege with the COVID crisis siege. Listen for God's word. Now, Chris Cuomo begins, it says, Dr. Fauci, would you tell us the latest and what we need to think about? And Dr. Fauci says, well, it's going to be a very dark time in our country. It's getting to be a lot darker. We may have 400,000 deaths by February or March and no more than 10 people in your homes. Dr. Fauci lays out all of the apt and important points of tough truths. And then Chris Cuomo turns to Micah. Mr. Micah, sir, and by the way, your color looks a little off and there are flies buzzing around your head, but would you please comment on the COVID crisis? At this point, Micah looks into the sky and puts his hands up as if he is receiving an oracular vision from heaven, and he says, marshal your troops now, city of troops, for a siege is laid against us. Chris Cuomo asks, Mr. Micah, would you mind just kind of answering the question? Micah continues, they will strike Israel's ruler on the cheek with a rod. Dr. Fauci, do you want to comment at this point or just get in and get some more facts in? Micah is undissuaded. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come from me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. Chris Cuomo. We're going to have to take a commercial break here in a few moments, but Micah, would you just mind just sort of addressing the actual question? He will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And we will live securely, for then his greatness will reach the ends of the earth, and this child will be our peace. Fauci, children have not been affected by this COVID crisis as much as adults have. Back to Micah. When the COVID virus invades our land and marches through our fortresses, we will raise against them 7 shepherds. 7 shepherds, asked Cuomo. Even 8 commanders who will rule over COVID with a sword. He will deliver us from the COVID crisis when it invades our land and marches across our borders. We definitely need to take a commercial break now, Mr. Micah, and we need to get you a fly swatter. The remnant of God will be in the midst of many peoples like dew from the Lord, like showers on the grass, which do not wait for anyone or depend on humans. We do totally need to. Can we cut his mic, please? Can somebody in the studio cut Micah's mic? The remnant of Jacob will be among the nations in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among beasts of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of sheep, out of step with the times. And so the interview ends. And everyone scratches their heads and says, what was that? That was the weirdest interview we have ever had. Let's get him back next week. But let's listen for this text, because when this text was spoken in the year 700 BC, it sounded no less crazy to the ears of the Israelites who were about to be invaded by the Assyrians as it does to our ears in the year 2020. Now, part of the reason that it feels so absolutely nuts is because it is a combination of tough truths and hilarious hopes. But here's a couple of other features about prophets I want to share with you as we continue. Prophets are always sort of out of step with the times. They're always just a little bit living in a different place and time. They often say inappropriate things in a modern context. Sometimes they have a tendency to see into some distant future. They are often lonely voices. They are often confusing. They are often bold. But here's my big question for you today. You may know of some great prophets in history. You might know of the biblical prophets. You might know of Julian of Norwich, or you might know of Joan of Arc, or you might know of Martin Luther King Jr. But my question for you today, and I ask this with all seriousness, can you be a prophet? Can you be one who speaks tough truths and hilarious hopes? Can you be one who is bold? Can you be one who is slightly out of step? Can you be one who says things that sometimes people don't understand because you are connecting with something bigger and more powerful and giving you more energy and dynamism than you could ever give yourself? Can you be a prophet?